Dewberry, and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, Monday to Thursday, 9:30 a.m.
Who benefits from that? Not the British public.
And on Fridays, join us, Tom Harwood
and Ellie Costello from Britain's Newsroom.
That's what you get with this show, that's fantastic.
If it's happening, we're talking about it on Britain's Newsroom.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, I'm Tatiana Sanchez. This is the latest from the GB Newsroom. A man has been remanded in custody over an alleged plot to kidnap and kill TV presenter Holly Willoughby. Gavin Plum, a shopping centre security guard, is charged with soliciting a man to carry out the crimes. The star pulled out of hosting ITV's This Morning after bosses were reportedly alerted to the possible threat. It's understood she's being given round-the-clock security and support. Labour's describing its Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election win as a seismic victory. Michael Shanks took the seat with 58% of the vote. That's more than double that of the SNP's Katie Loudon. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says Scotland is key to securing a majority at the next general election. Former First Minister and current Alba Party leader Alex Salmond says Humza Yousaf has days to save his job after the by-election defeat. Scotland's First Minister says the SNP needs time to reflect on the result.
The SNP, we didn't do enough. We know that there was contextual factors. Margaret Ferrier's reckless actions, the police investigation, of course. But we've got to reflect, I've got to reflect, the party has to ensure we've got a good campaign machine behind us, but also that we're inspiring people with a message. We clearly got a message from the voters of Rutherglen and Hamilton West that the SNP has lost some trust in that seat. We've got to make sure we regain it.
A key supporter of the Just Stop Oil protest group says he's redirecting his funding to a youth voting campaign. Green energy industrialist Dale Vince says he's given more than £340,000 since the group's foundation. But he says under the current government, protest cannot work and warns further disruption may prove counterproductive. Mr Vince is instead supporting a new cause aimed at encouraging young people to vote. Just Stop Oil says it will continue its campaign of civil resistance. In other news, a Conservative councillor has called for the Home Secretary's resignation over the handling of RAF Scampton. The government's accused of ignoring a legal order to stop converting the former airbase into a migrant camp to house 2,000 people. The Home Office says it's confident the project meets planning requirements, but Councillor Roger Patterson described the department as liars. And finally, while much of the UK could see temperatures of up to 26 degrees Celsius at the weekend, a warning for rain is in place in parts of Scotland. The Met Office issued both amber and yellow rain warnings for large parts of Scotland and northern England from tomorrow until Sunday morning. ScotRail has announced there will be significant disruption to its services as a result, while in contrast, fine and dry weather for southern and central England. Temperatures could rise as high as 25 degrees by Sunday afternoon. This is GB News across the UK on TV, in your car on digital radio, and now on your smart speaker by simply saying play GB News. Now it's over to headlines.
Thank you, Tatiana. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your nightly run through the next day's newspapers with three top comedians. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight our truly diverse panel features the top dog of the synagogue, the explorer of the Torah, is Josh Howie. And next to him is the mad lad of global jihad, the Ayatollah of rock and roller, is Mr. Darius Davies. How are you both doing?
Those are great intros.
Thank you. I was trying to make it a bit wrestling. Since you've got a past in wrestling, Darius, how's your week been?
Man, it's been a tough week. Tough week for me, Josh.
Why?
Tough week to look like Russell Brand. That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't know.
Anyway, let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Daily Mail has Menopause Madness. The Telegraph has rapists wrongly labelled as women by police. The Express leads with man charged with hitman plot to kill Holly Willoughby. The Times has NHS must modernise or die, says Labour. The Mirror has hitman from US was told to kill Holly. And finally, the Daily Star, Fergie's agony. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with the Telegraph, Josh.
Yeah, a ridiculous story that has sort of been covered online if people follow the right accounts over the last however many years. But rapists wrongly labelled as women by police. So I've seen examples of this multiple times, but someone sort of put it all together, and it turns out that 260 females have been referred to the Crown Prosecution Service over the last 4 years under the charge of rape, which, as a coincidence, female rape went up 260%. I haven't done my maths properly or whatever. Is that 2006? Anyway, the point is, female rape is somewhat of a misnomer because there needs to be a penis involved.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's impossible for a woman to rape because, by definition, it's the insertion of.
Yeah. So then the police. So this is like people going, "No, I'm a woman," and then the police like putting it down as that. And then when the newspapers report it, they go, "Oh, a woman, really some horrible story." And then you hear that and you go, "This is ridiculous. Let's wait till they release the photo," and then it's just a bloke with a beard.
Who just says I'm a woman, which by a lot of people would say that's legitimate.
I can't believe what I'm hearing from you two transphobes. Listen, the way I'm reading this is that women need to do better. That's what I'm reading in this story. They're out here, they're committing these horrific crimes, and they need to do better. Women sort it out. That's what I'm reading.
That's funny, but but the point is.
Josh.
No, but the point is...
Josh, they are women and they need to do
when
better.
the stats are misrepresented like this, it has a serious impact because you suddenly... female rape goes up this amount of percent, and people start looking at the historical... You need to use the data for crime prevention for all these different reasons, and suddenly they go, "Oh, what happened that suddenly made all these women over here rape? Oh, they were blokes."
And also, it's obviously a nonsense. You know, if a bloke rapes a woman, but then says to the police, identify as a woman, the police shouldn't then be recording that person as well. I think you waive your right to transition to any gender when you commit a heinous crime like that. And also, a lot of men, there's an incentive for men to transition to women when they've committed a horrific crime like this because you get a new name. So anybody who Googles your new name, Loretta...
Loretta the rapist.
Yeah, isn't going to see your history. And that's what we've seen so many men...
And also the victims, you've got this insane thing where the victims are in court having to address their attacker as a woman.
Yeah.
I mean,
which has just got to
just gaslighting.
It's got to lay on, so much more insult to injury.
So anyway, so other Braverman supposedly in the past said, you've got to stop doing this. The police, of course, have just utterly ignored her.
Right.
And now I think they're even going to...
instructions from Owen Jones or the SNP.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you mean there's a lot of people who would say this is perfectly legitimate? Of course, these are real women. They've self-identified as women.
I'm saying it, and they need to do better. That's what I'm saying. They need to stop it. Cut this out.
And ironically, Darius looks like one of them. Moving on to the Times now, Darius. What have they got in the front?
The Times lead with a story that the NHS must modernise or die, say Labour, and they're pledging that if they get into power, they're going to double the number of diagnostic scanners.
Well, we're going to get two.
Yeah. Well, actually, we've got one of the lowest amount of scanners, like MRI scanners, CAT scanners. We're behind Greece. We're lower than like a few countries. It's like shocking.
Slovakia.
And if we double them, we'll be up to the same numbers as Spain and Germany. So they've placed a double. Yeah, they've modernised or die, which that makes sense. And there's a nice picture of Arnie on the front as well. And
he
also,
doesn't need a scan. He's turned into a self-help guru, and I'm sure he's fit and healthy.
Yeah. That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it feels like we're almost getting a two-tier. There's privatisation by stealth because a lot of people are just sick of waiting. There's something like 7 or 8 million people on the waiting list, so they're sick of waiting. So they just pay to go private. So whoever can afford to goes private, and then the NHS is for.
But it's showing now. We're seeing more policies coming out by Labour. Wes Streeting, I think, is an impressive politician. I think all politicians are suspect to a degree, but he plays the game well, and this is a good idea in terms, they're going to cut down, they're going to scrap the non-dom tax status. That's how they're going to pay for it.
Right.
And the point is, and as he's someone who this happened to him, when you get diagnosed early, it makes a massive impact. Of course, you're more likely to survive
and save the NHS money.
Exactly. So this is a win-win situation. But he's right, and Labour's right in that. They've got to get serious with this. They have to do some serious investment. Otherwise, as you say, it's privatisation by stealth.
But you know what's interesting? The scanners only cost 171 million. That's all they cost. Which
seems like quite a lot.
Yeah, but not
I thought you were going to say like
to double
171 quid.
No, 171 million for all of them to double the number. Yeah.
That's like
that's
2 days in a Liz Truss.
That's nothing to double. It's nothing. It's like the 100 for all to double the number. Right. Why are you being cheap? It's not your money. Why do you care?
That's a man who wants to pay more tax. Anyway, what's the Daily Mail got on the front cover, Josh?
Yeah, menopause madness. And I saw you covered this story last night. It was very funny. It's going to be hard to top that. But yeah, there's dozens of councils and universities that reveal now that there are official policies in place. Now, what I couldn't get... For the male menopause, yeah. Now, what I couldn't get, and I've done a bit of research here, is to find out if the female menopause is real or not. Sorry, if my wife's watching that, she's not going to be very impressed.
Maybe they keep it next to the...
Well, I don't know about whether the male menopause is real or not, but I do know that the impact of the female menopause on men is tough. So I feel like when women are having the menopause, their partners should also get a year off.
Well, I like it. I like it. You just don't stop. Keep digging.
Don't feel too straight. But look, if there's any, but on a serious note, there's a lot of women here who are campaign groups who are campaigning for more recognition for the female menopause, obviously, and whatnot. But they're like, this is taken away from us. Look, female menopause obviously has a massive impact. I've seen it personally. It needs to be dealt with, and it is getting the attention finally it deserves. Yeah. But if it turns out there's not an equivalence, but if there's something going on with men as well, and that data can be evidenced and whatnot, then I think, why not?
I think it exists. I mean, your testosterone decreases year on year as you get older, and there's an optimum amount. And if men have an optimum amount of testosterone, they function better, they can be more productive, and they're more lively. So I think it's a real thing. This and
a lot of men are taking steroids or testosterone boosters or getting testosterone replacement therapy.
Everyone's on it now.
Yeah, you can wear...
it's the cool thing to do.
But this is it. If you're menopause, you put on weight, you lose hair, you wear plaid shirts.
Finally, the Sun, Darius, they've got the story.
Yeah,
the
Sun lead with US hitman plot to murder Holly. But they actually have a picture of a security guard who is actually 35-stone Gavin Plum, and he's in court charged with plotting to kidnap and murder Holly Willoughby by conspiring to get a US hitman.
Was he going to eat her?
Well, he had to try and get her because obviously he was incapable of doing it himself.
Well, yeah, she could just walk up a flight of stairs, but they'd be unable to catch her.
Yeah, but there's been no motive, so I'm going to presume that he was some sort of patsy for Schofield to get revenge strange. He worked as a security guard, though, at McDonald's.
Yeah, right. He's the reason why single-handedly shoplifting has gone up in this country.
Did he threaten to fall on the kids? What was the... I mean, 35...
How is he a security guard?
He can block those double doors.
That's it, yeah. You're not getting out until you're paid.
It says everything about his weight in this, but it doesn't say why. What has she done that's angered him so much?
Yeah.
Like, that makes him want to...
It actually does say why. It says...
Does it?
Yeah, it says it's a vicious circle, because this is when he was on the TV show.
No, that says why he's fat. It doesn't say why.
Well, this is it. When I'm depressed, I eat. When I eat, I'm depressed. And then I watch GMB.
Yeah.
And then, then I get depressed and I eat more. So maybe it's her appearances that depress him.
It'd be making him more depressed. Or maybe he's just...
I'm not blaming her.
Maybe he's just a bit crazy.
No, he just says he's just depressed when he eats. Doesn't mention that that's the reason.
I made that up.
You made that up. Made me feel Cameron.
Maybe he's happy when he eats.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the front pages done. Join us in part 2, where we'll dissect the SNP's latest disaster. Just stop oil, just stop getting funded, and the Rwanda plan could actually be happening. I'll believe it when I see it. See you in a couple of minutes.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Join me, Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, Monday to Thursday, 9:30 a.m.
Who benefits from that? Not the British public.
And on Fridays, join us, Tom Harwood
and Ellie Costello from Britain's Newsroom.
That's what you get with this show. That's fantastic.
If it's happening, we're talking about it on Britain's Newsroom.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, kicking off this section with The Telegraph, and Scottish leader Humza Yousaf was lauded in Time magazine as a trailblazer, but with yesterday's Scottish election results, he's more of a failblazer.
Failblazer! He's a loser! SNP wipeout possible after seismic Labour by-election win, says Scottish Tory. The Tories getting in on the action here. I love the idea of all the SNP, Nicola Sturgeon, all then wipe out and just all bouncing off those big Red Bulls and off into oblivion. So this is huge. This is a 20% swing. They're saying if that was followed through on the election day, Labour win 42 seats in Scotland.
Yeah.
SNP would go down to 6. What's interesting in this Telegraph article, because obviously they're going to bring the Tory angle into it somewhat, is that this guy has basically said, oh yeah, part of that was because the Tories voted because they just wanted to get the SNP out. And he's saying, but I'm sure Labour are going to return the favour. Like, all right, well, good luck with that. But the funny thing, I mean, this is obviously it's a big deal for Starmer and for Labour. That level of swing, the people who are upset most are obviously going to be the far left Corbynites crying the most because they hate him more than anybody. So they're absolutely gutted.
And they probably love the SNP because they've got the radical sort of gender ideology.
Absolutely, and they want all that stuff. They want to destroy the country. But Michael you know what? The Michael Shanks, the guy who won, he actually left the Labour Party because of the anti-Semitism, and then he rejoined. So, I'm happy. This is a good sign. Obviously, I support Labour with caveats. But this obviously is scary for the SNP, but they have been rubbish.
Yeah, and Darius, you live in Scotland.
Well, yeah, sometimes. Is this like a really rubbish version of Game of Thrones? Because they've had the Tories tactically vote to get Labour in, to get out SNP. But yeah, it's a sorry indictment of how SNP are doing, because they're failing the people who live in Scotland on the issues that actually matter.
Yeah.
The issues that actually matter are jobs, housing, immigration, not gender ideology, education, none of this. And they're pushing this narrative. And now average Scots are like, why are you wasting my time on this? This is not what I'm interested in. So this is, we've seen it with Brexit in the past, and this is, for SNP had such a stronghold. For them to lose this seat and in such a large margin, it's a real, it should be a wake-up call to them in the way they're going.
Yeah, and also Humza campaigned pretty vociferously behind this seat, so it falls on his shoulder. It's not like he kept a distance from it, so it really is a kind of referendum on his leadership. So it doesn't look good for him.
Remaining impartial there with that smile.
The Guardian now, and Just Stop Oil's backer has just stopped funding them, and Keir Starmer's going to be delighted. Tell us why, Darius.
Yeah, so the Guardian says green energy magnate to switch support from Just Stop Oil to Labour. So Dale Vince, who is a millionaire, has been funding Just Stop Oil, and instead he's going to stop funding them, and now he's going to give all that money into getting the vote out for Labour.
Does this mean Keir Starmer is going to be out in the streets lying down in front of trucks?
Well, what it means is Dale Vince has realised that it's easier to just buy off the MPs and give it to give it to some. He probably thought, I'll just employ Stop Oil, Just Stop Oil, as an elaborate prank to see if I can get some dweebs to tie themselves to a goalpost, and now he's bored of that. But what's interesting, though, is the reason why he's doing this is deep in the article. It says the following. A green policy offering led by Ed Miliband, the Shadow Climate Change and Net Zero Secretary, will create a new public-private energy company and reach a $28 billion in green investment by the end of the second half of a Labour-led parliament.
So are you telling me that a businessman is supporting a politician in the hope that they might get some sort of dividend on the back end of it?
No,
this is disgusting!
That's not what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is a businessman is paying a politician that on the back end.
Yeah, and that's called modern wealth.
That's what happened before. So under the previous Labour administration, Dale Vince, who's an energy baron, who's worth over £100 million, he paid £1.5 million to the Labour Party then, and he got £36 million back in subsidies when they were in power.
I would pay $1 million if I had it to get you two to stick your hands to the road if I got $30 million back in.
And do you think, Josh, you think he might be worried because we've seen Lawrence Fox was recently arrested for comments that the police thought might have been encouraging criminal damage or encouraging criminality.
You said it's because they found drugs on
surely, no, well, surely,
joke,
I mean, surely funding Just Stop Oil, who are basically a criminal street gang, to go out and commit crimes and block roads, is Dale Vince might have been.
No, but that's for the good. He did it for the goodies, the good side.
No, well, exactly. He's pointed out himself. He thinks it's turning into counterproductive,
right?
Which of course it is. It's turning people against it. All these people trying to get to work, trying to go to visit their hospital appointments, and all that. People going to Les Mis and paying ridiculous amount of money to see a mediocre musical.
it's marginally improved.
Exactly. So. He's seen which way the wind is blowing, and it's not generating him money.
We've got The Guardian again, and the latest sign that we're sliding into a Chinese-style surveillance state, Josh.
Yeah, MP and peers call for immediate stop to live facial recognition surveillance. This is on the news this week that there's policy now to basically use our passport photos as well to implement those. And this is just some high-flying MPs here. We've got David Davis, we've got Ed Davey, we've got Caroline Lucas. I mean, these are the cream of the crop of the thing. And but there are issues here in terms. This is what they're saying the issues are: lack of safeguards, lack of evidence base, lack of sufficient legal basis, lack of parliamentary consideration, lack of democratic mandate. There's a lot of lacks going here. None of it's necessarily proved as of yet, because the other thing that they're saying is, like, if you compare it to DNA evidence, well, that is also intrinsically, like, there are rights issues, there are privacy concerns that are there, but it did solve a lot of crimes.
Yeah, but the police don't go around gathering DNA from everybody in the street.
Well, they did. Well, they do when there's around suspects and stuff like that. So they will do a wider scope to catch one person. So they have done that.
This is the story of this when it's face recognition. Always is, if you've got nothing to hide, why do you care? It's like, first of all, I've got loads of stuff to hide, right? let's just clarify that, right? But there's such things as a false positive, right? And everyone's just getting their face scanned. The data is just out there. Do you trust the government? I mean, I bet, if this is the kind of thing that, all governments are benevolent, you can trust them, and all future governments are benevolent. This is the kind of technology Hitler would have loved in Nazi Germany, would have made his job a lot easier. So there's a reason why people that have serious concerns about the safeguarding of you walking down. False positives, they think you're someone else, the computer says you're someone else, you're arrested just based on walking down the street. It's not right that the government have access to all your data in your face. DNA evidence is a totally different thing. You have to get caught or give it, not just someone just looking as you're walking down Oxford Street. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, it widens the scope. But of course there are concerns, and they're also specifically talking about private companies who I trust even less. I don't trust the government, and I don't trust private companies even less. But until we see specific ways in which those rights are actively taken away...
Well, we could just have a look at China.
Well, no, absolutely.
5 years' time.
Yeah, but, to throw the baby out with the bathwater, this could... That's why the police are looking for him.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got the Times now, and with an election looming, Rishi is pulling out all the stops with his Rwanda plan. I feel like I've heard it all before, Darius.
Yeah, well, I thought this has already been done, but it hasn't. So Sunak is ready to deport 4,000 migrants if court approves the Rwanda scheme. So Rishi is drawing up plans to deport 4,000 migrants to Rwanda by the next election as officials step up preparations ahead of next week's Supreme Court hearing. So even if they're hoping it goes through, so now they're planning and they're organising the logistics of, sorting out all the flights. So it goes in the article, it says, they're on Skyscanner checking for some cheap flights to Rwanda and some Airbnbs, but it could still be scuppered by the European Court of Human Rights, even though they're going to pay for easy, fast boarding and all that, all the good stuff.
Will they be able to take, like, what size bag?
Yeah, one bag. They even allow one piece of...
They get one bag and a backpack?
One piece of carry-on luggage. But basically, they're planning the logistics now, and they hope to have the first inaugural flight ready in February, where they'll send maybe 200 people. But
right. So the 4,000 is a bit of a sort of headline grabber, but they're going to start with 200.
They're going to start in the low season as well.
So that might be enough. As soon as people see that, everybody that comes across is getting sent to Rwanda, they might just be like, well, maybe I'll stay in.
They might be, but that's not proven. And there are people who are saying it's not going to deter them, because if they come over and don't get arrested and they're going to take their chances, So,
but it worked. It worked in Australia. A very similar scheme was implemented in Australia and completely stopped the illegal.
Well, they
boat
literally
crossings.
physically stopped them.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. But
you're not seeing border control.
Yeah, it's a great TV show. But the point here is that there is still scope for them to escape through and still try their luck again.
Oh, so they can just run up the beach?
Whatever, like do a reverse sort of Normandy or whatever.
Right, and we don't have facial scanning, so...
Yeah. So look, the point is it's not proven yet that it would deter that much. We're talking 200 people is their thing, then even up to 4,000.
Yeah.
It's still not proven that... I mean, that's a dent in what's happening, and it's a dent of what's going to be happening.
Yeah, but you only need to
future.
do it for 2 weeks and show that, yeah, if anybody comes, it's like, you know, one guy with a revolver against an army, you know, if one person comes...
That's the idea, but like I say, I don't think that's proven. And but the government seem quietly confident that they will win this Supreme Court decision because it all hinges on proving that there is a safe country, essentially.
It's a lovely place. Anyway, the Telegraph now, and the cost of Rishi cancelling HS2 is becoming apparent, Josh.
Yeah, buy back your house. Rishi Sunak tells homeowners uprooted by HS2. There's a house that was bought the day before these compulsory purchases have been put through. And so they didn't even wait. They still spent money up to that point, which is just totally ridiculous.
He wanted his speech to be a bombshell. He didn't want any twists getting out.
But so now people have lost their homes and communities have been destroyed. It's sort of farmers are saying it's just a big scar across the land. And this is one of the things they're saying is, yeah, you'll get your opportunity to buy a house back. Do you want to necessarily? But it's interesting that John Bishop, comedian, he had his house bought for $6.8 million. I'm like, damn, man, I didn't know he was doing well. I would have been a lot nicer to him if I knew he was that rich.
Yeah, Darius, do you think people are going to be buying their houses back cheaper?
Yeah, well, that's what I think. But a lot of people are going to make a lot of money from this, because the government will have bought a house the day before for $1.5 million. Then next week he'll buy it back for $1 million. That's $500,000 in your pocket. So. John Bishop, 6.8. I wonder how much his house is going for now. Price will have gone down.
Yeah.
Of course it would have gone down. They thought there was going to be a train line being built on there. It'd be worth like half the price.
Yeah.
People are going to make money on this, I think. I mean, I don't know.
Anyway, that's it for part 2. Coming up, we've got a trans politician who hits back at Rishi, a new way to skive, and everyone's got the itch, literally. See you in a couple of minutes.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, Monday to Thursday, 9:30 a.m.
Who benefits from that? Not the British public.
And on Fridays, join us, Tom Harwood
And Ellie Costello from Britain's Newsroom.
That's what you get with this show. That's fantastic.
If it's happening, we're talking about it on Britain's Newsroom.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Telegraph next, and during the pandemic, children were thrown under the bus to save old and unhealthy people. Some would say we had our priorities the wrong way round, Darius.
Yeah, so the COVID inquiry was told that the pandemic was a disaster for many disadvantaged and already vulnerable youngsters, according to the former Children's Commissioner, Anne Longfield. Please, sir, may I have some more? No. Basically, there was no recourse left for them, or children were an afterthought, and obviously because of that, their mental health, their education, everything deteriorated, and concerns were raised during the pandemic, and it fell to Sir Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary at the time. But apparently it was very clear he wasn't part of those discussions because there was just an empty chair at the table, so he didn't even care. And I agree, children were such an afterthought, and it was easy for people to say, oh, let's do the stay-at-home, save lives when you've got a garden, house, you're on furlough. But some of these kids are like living in a one-bedroom flat, 3 or 4 children, no internet. Yeah, how bored they must have been with no internet. But it was real terrible. So actually, we all know the pandemic was a disaster for the country, and many people at the time said this is a disaster. If you're sick, you stay at home. If you're vulnerable, you stay at home. Stop making everyone else have to stay at home. But they did it, and now we're seeing the results and the repercussions.
Yeah, Josh, I mean, as a father, you must have lived this.
Yeah, it was hell for them. But no, it was a disaster. Yeah, disadvantaged kids, vulnerable kids. For any child, it put everybody back. People still haven't recovered fully to where they were. And I blame the government, but I also blame teacher unions, because every time they were talking about reopening schools, the teacher unions would kick off and whatever.
What a surprise that public sector workers
I'm not
an excuse to not go back to work.
I know, it's disgusting, and they have a responsibility. I know that some teachers were at risk, and the science, but it got more and more
doing some work.
Yeah, it got more.
It's not like they work very hard at the best of times. You're only in about 4 hours a day.
As the science came more and more obvious, and also the impact was seen more and more on the kids.
Yeah.
The fact that the unions were still pushing so hard, and the government had to push so hard back against it. And I support Labour, but I think they would have been worse in this instance.
Yeah.
And
they would have been.
Yeah, they would have not gone through that narrative at all. So I see it. I'm a broken record on this. I'm still upset. I'm upset for my kids and the efforts it's going to take to get them to catch up and whatever. And let alone for other parents out there who don't have the same resources that I do. Like, I've got about 100 quid a week.
You're rich.
To spare to put,
We've got the Mail now, and a trans politician is moaning about Rishi being hurtful. I've had a look, and I think it's the most convincingly feminine thing about her, Josh.
Yeah, Belgium's transgender deputy PM. I didn't know that they had a transgender deputy PM. I didn't know that they were a country. Blasts Rishi Sunak and tells him not to join the bullies after his hurtful speech about gender issues at Tory conference. What did he say? He said a man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's a scientific fact. That's not hurtful. The point is about trans women is they're not women. A trans woman, by definition, has to be a man. That's by definition...
Male.
Male, yes.
Gender and sex is a different thing.
Yes. So... That's so this idea that that's hurtful, pointing out a scientific truth. Then this person says they're fueling transphobia, just recognition of scientific fact, and endangering the lives. Now, this kind of rhetoric is what's been pushed through for the last however many years, that transgender women are the most at-risk people, and it's all based on a statistic of black sex workers in Brazil. Right. What? That the whole thing about the murder rate, as the high murder rate amongst trans women, is all based on sex workers, black sex workers in Brazil, who I'm imagining do have a high murder rate, you know. But that does not translate to America and certainly to the UK. So and the rest of Europe and whatnot. So and then let's talk about the 11% increase in hate crimes. Well, how do you define what a hate crime is? A hate crime misgendering somebody?
Well, it's when somebody moans.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, so that 11%.
It's all down to the person's perception. But I mean, Darius, there does seem to be an intractable split in society. You've got half of society says, "No, that bloke over there, that's a woman," because he says he's a woman, so you're bigoted if you say it's a man. Whereas other people are like, "I've got some basic common sense."
Well, first of all, Petra de Sutter, who is the politician, mind your own business. No Tory MPs are talking about the Flemish Interest Party manifesto. No one cares, right? And also, calling Rishi Sunak a bully undermines your argument. He's 5'2", he's a dweeb. He got his lunch money taken every single day at school.
There was a lot of lunch money, though.
I see why she commented on it, Rishi commented on it, so now she feels it's just a vicious circle. I feel sorry for trans people who there's regular trans people, right, who just want to get up, go to work, do their lives. Yeah. And every day they're in because trans activists or politicians, and they're being used as a political football, and it's just a vicious circle. And I just think these trans right activists who make such a point of, you're a bully, just for saying a man is a man, a woman is a woman, just leave that comment. It's not help. This is just inflamed that further.
Because they're not, I mean, nobody's got a problem with genuine transgender women who put some effort in and look like women. This is, you know, the issue is with men exploiting this system to say that they're women and then get access to women's spaces or, you know, make women feel uncomfortable or whatever. So you can do all that as a man. Why are you bothering transitioning?
I mean,
it's a waste of time.
Gender recognition is one thing that people are very, very wary of. But also, it's just like people are like, wow, every time you bring this up, and that was like men are men and women are women. Okay, leave that. It's fine. We understand trans women and women. We understand. But if you push it, you're going to start making people irate, and they will lash out.
Well,
and that is what I think
they have pushed it. But you know, you say make them irate. Well, then I don't think people are lashing out. There's evidence of transphobia or whatever, people being beaten up and whatever. It's just not there. Yeah. That's not it there in the actual crime statistics.
We are seeing acceptance of transgender people going down.
Well, it depends what you do.
But it's because of all this. It's because, you know, they're pushing this gender ideology and saying, like, you know, let's put men in women's prisons and all this absolute.
But that's what you're saying. What do you define as acceptance of trans women? If it's just people living their lives, then of course, in safety, with dignity, absolutely. Yeah. But when it comes to two sets of rights coming up against each other, then the acceptance, I'm sorry, no, we have to. That's why we have these laws about women's spaces and whatnot.
Yeah, we're moving on. We've got the Telegraph now, and taking transgender hormones...
Oh, not more trans!
Oh, jeez, come on! Hugely increases the chances of trans people getting deadly conditions. But can't they just identify as healthy, Darius?
Well, they can identify as healthy, but unfortunately, according to this story, up to 95%... they're more likely to suffer heart disease. But that makes sense because if you're transitioning from whatever to whatever, you're basically taking steroids. You're taking steroids for the rest of your life.
And you know about that?
Well, yeah, and there's a reason why you don't see any young 40 bodybuilders, like in their 40s or in their... A lot of them die due to steroid use and due to heart attacks because you're meant to cycle on, you use it for like a short term, but if you're on it for, you know, forever, essentially, it puts a lot of strain on your body, and a lot of and sadly, a lot of trans people, they get their hormones illegally, or they get them from the web because they can't get them legally from the doctor. They don't want to wait, and they're just self-administering, and it's causing knock-on side effects. So this story reports that, you know, 95% more likely to suffer from a heart condition if you're...
And also significantly increased risk from conditions such as strokes, high blood pressure, high blood fat, and cholesterol levels.
And this is because when men transition into women, they're given estrogen, and estrogen obviously increases, you know, like your body fat, you lose muscle mass, so you turn more womanly, but because of that, you're losing lean muscle, and
and they can still smash women's weightlifting records. It's incredible. Moving on, we've got the Telegraph now, and while we're worried about a plague of bed bugs from Paris, it turns out plenty of people are catching bugs in bed here already, Josh.
Yeah, how online dating fueled record level of STIs in Britain. So because we have such good medical records from 1916 where they could see the cases of gonorrhea and syphilis, they've able to sort of been track that over the last century and marry it to events like World War I. It went up because people were being more sexually active because everyone thought they were going to die. Then in the 60s, it went up again, but then it also ceased when penicillin came after World War II. So it's interesting seeing that, and now we're on the increase again. Yeah. And what they're saying is that it's partly through social media and people being able to do like online dating and have readily available sexual partners. That's also partly through more sexual experimentation, a lot more people being sort of trying sleep with men and women. And it also talks about some of the treatment. Initially, this is if you have syphilis, you can have a small sore on your penis, vagina or anus. I've actually got it on all three. That's
very progressive.
Thank you, yeah. And also they're saying the increase in international travel has also played a part. So I think there should be a Just Stop Chlamydia group, you know, instead of Just Stop Oil, just like get these people out there, and it's like two birds with one stone.
Just ban the trips to Magaluf, and we're gonna be okay. And I think also AIDS has receded as a threat. I mean, that was, you know, throughout my childhood. I mean, I didn't go to a swingers party until I was 12.
Well, that's because PrEP has come in. So PrEP is a drug that now people can take if they think they're going to be exposed to HIV. So that's lowered the case of AIDS. But what they're saying here is that there's like super gonorrhea and
doesn't sound good.
Yeah, and
super.
Yeah, and I mean, I might have made that up.
No, there is super gonorrhea.
Yeah, there's going to be it's these diseases now like gonorrhea and.
You wear a pink jumper
and syphilis again. That's not funny. That's not funny at all. Your shirt looks like gonorrhea.
You're both riddled. You're both walking. Moving on, never mind long COVID. The Guardian have a new excuse for their work-shy readers to skive off sick. Oh, give me money, please, government. Pathetic. Darius, tell us more.
Listen, Guardian reports that people may suffer long colds more than 4 weeks after infection. And I know this to be true because I'm still suffering from a cold from July, so I need to go claim my benefit for that. But results in the Lancet E-Clinical Medicine Journal, sponsored by Lemsip, found a similar risk of long-term symptoms as those with COVID. So it's basically saying that a lot of people are now reporting 4 weeks up to afters that they're still suffering from, you know, a runny nose or a tickly throat.
It's enough to get time off work.
But you know, with the long COVID thing, I lost my sense of taste and smell, and it didn't come back.
I've seen that jumper. It hasn't come back, Darius.
Wow, that is the pot calling the kettle black. A man in a purple velvet tuxedo and a shirt that looks like a nightmare. I'm not having that. Anyway, the point is, I lost my sense of taste and smell, and it never quite came back. Tasted a bit weird. And that technically is a long-term, like, I'm not off work with that. Do you know what I mean? It's like the way they're saying these things, but it is a thing.
But you do work 20 minutes a day.
Yes, a hard job.
But none of this article's about people being off work. It's about 22% of the population are susceptible to long COVID or to long cold. So basically, 22%
but that's
just
boring.
messed up genes.
Yeah, but it's boring when you say it like that.
Oh, sorry.
Any respiratory infections, COVID or colds or anything,
has a long
stay around for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it for this section. Come back for a final section where we'll have Bezos versus Musk, teetotal youngsters, and the NHS being racist. See you in a couple of minutes.
Join me, Andrew Pearce, and Bev Turner, Monday to Thursday, 9:30 a.m.
Who benefits from that? Not the British public.
And on Fridays, join us, Tom Harwood
and Ellie Costello from Britain's Newsroom.
That's what you get with this show. That's fantastic.
If it's happening, we're talking about it on Britain's Newsroom.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians
to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, kicking off this section with The Guardian, and Jeff Bezos is going to war with Elon Musk in space, Josh. This sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's not. Amazon launches first 2 satellites and planned orbital internet service. So Elon Musk, he's got his Starlink. I think he's got about 5,000 of those things up there at the moment. Yeah. Amazon's going to have 2,000. Putting a lot of power, you know, it's how much of the world is run through the internet now, in the hands of 2 individuals through their companies is not great. We already saw what happened when he basically stopped Ukraine attacking the Russian warships with drones, and you know, having an individual in that kind of position is not good. Now you can have 2 individuals with that level of leverage or whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess whoever controls, you know, the internet is controlled by private companies anyway, so.
I mean, you've got to marvel, for me, you've got to marvel at Elon's intelligence. Remember when he sent that Tesla with the spaceman into space? And now he's placed a Prime order and Amazon have to deliver it all the way to space.
That's what this is all about. We've got the Times now with something we already knew. Young people these days are joyless Puritans who don't know how to party, Darius.
That's right. The Times says that 1/5 of young adults don't touch alcohol, a drink-aware survey finds. So 1 in 5 young adults are teetotals, and under 25s are less likely to drink alcohol than any other generation, a report has revealed. But I would argue the type of under 25s who are willing to do this survey wouldn't drink anyway. They need to go do this survey in a Weatherspoons and find out the real number. That's my point, although they are nerds.
No one's in you got no one under 50 in Weatherspoons.
Oh, really?
It's, yeah.
To be honest, I don't drink.
I go there.
Yeah. How old are you? 49?
47, I think.
Okay, so no one under 40.
Well under 50.
No one under 45 in there. Apart from my kids, where we go for the cheap food.
Right, there you go.
I have a couple of pints, and they'll just sort of sit around me and run around. It's quite fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is. There's also, they talk here about that. People under 25 are this is the most ridiculous thing ever, that the idea that someone wrote this down like it was a discovery. People under 25 are less likely to drink home alone. Like, i.e., people under 25 have friends.
It's a film, you can't drink a film.
Yeah, but they're compared to older generations. So basically, when you're older, you don't have any friends, you drink home alone.
Right.
That's my life.
Okay.
But one of the most startling things, though, it said that the ones under the Gen Z that are drinking, they are binging They're binge drinking.
They're having fun.
Yeah, well, they define it as binge drinking is defined as 4 pints.
Yeah, it's having fun.
That's not binge.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. That's the startling fact.
Yeah, that's warming up.
Yeah.
Monday.
Anyway, the Mail now, and
That's
despite
pre-game.
spending millions on diversity and inclusion coordinators, the NHS is being racist, Josh.
Yeah, outrageous NHS training course claims Asian men won't give eye contact because it's disrespectful in their culture. And this has been heavily criticised by certain doctors. This training, someone took a photo of it, put it online, and I got a bit. The thing for me is, part of the criticism is they're saying, well, define Asian because that could be Afghanistan to South Korea, whatever.
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
it's such a wide scope as a label, and they're saying it's discriminatory racist. I have never heard of this. The idea that any kind of Asian across that spectrum had this thing about not looking in the eye. So
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stuff about the eyes, but not this thing.
particular thing, yeah. So, but obviously, it seems that it's a stereotype enough within the NHS for them to come up with some to try and explain. And also, then some people said, oh, the reason why it is because, it could be because they have neurodiverse stuff or they're autistic or whatever. So they seem to say that there is an issue with Asian men not looking people in the eye.
Right.
Have you ever heard of this before?
I actually haven't heard of that.
I'm just surprised that this is a thing.
Yeah.
You know,
it's ridiculous. And I'm surprised to see it in the NHS, which, has so many, they've always got the pride flags on the...
I know, but what's funny is the more you try and be woke and really diverse and encouraging, the actually more racist you are because you're delineating everyone by their characteristics as opposed to who they are as a person. So, that's the Asian person and Asians do this. Yeah. That's the gay person and gay people, yes, they do that. So then it's more racist.
Superb impression of a gay person.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't an impression, actually. It was a reality. So there you go.
We've got the Times now with a way to combat depression, but I think it'll make lazy people more depressed, Darius.
Yeah, it transpires that group running is as effective as antidepressants in boosting mental health. So that's what a study revealed, but I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, if you're depressed, you don't want to get up and go for a run.
Yeah.
Let alone go for a run in a group. You probably don't have any friends. There's a lot of hurdles to entry. It's a lot harder than, here, take a tablet and you'll be better.
So this could be a self-selecting thing where the people who have friends to go running with and can be bothered going running are probably going to overcome their depression anyway.
Yeah, you just want to stay at home and watch Holly on Good Morning Britain.
And eat McDonald's.
Yeah, and eat McDonald's. Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of the thing that seems so obvious. It's interesting to note the impact of running or any kind of exercise does have, and obviously, as it points out here, it has the additional benefit of making you healthy, and making you thinner, and living longer, and all of those different things. But yes, the problem is, of course, that it's much harder to do exercise in terms of driving you forward. So what happened was, even though they had the same impact, positive impact, you were much more likely to actually finish your course of antidepressants because the exercise is just going. That's it.
Yeah.
Than actually getting your pants on and going outside.
All right, let's quickly see if we can squeeze this one. It's in the Daily Mail, and Walker's Crisps have cancelled a flavour. Don't say we don't bring you the important news, Josh.
You know what? I mean, if you're a fan of this flavour, it is a big deal. I'm shocked. Fans are calling on Walker's Crisps.
The guy who wants to kill Holly. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Do you think that's what put him over the edge? They want to reinstate this god-tier flavour after the brand confirms it won't be returning. We're talking about Worcester sauce. Well, I'm sure I didn't know that there was an issue. I've sort of as soon as I read this, I was like, I'm really desperate for some Worcester sauce.
I'm furious. Walkers do this all the time. They Bangers and Mash was a great flavour. They took that off the shelves. Onion gravy, that was a great flavour. They took it off the shelf, and now they're taking Worcester sauce flavour off the shelf. This is just plain and simple flavour phobia.
It's a conspiracy. It's Big Crisp. Yeah. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with menopause madness. The Telegraph has rapists wrongly labelled as women by police. The Express has man charged with hitman plot to kill Holly Willoughby. The Times leads with NHS must modernise or die, says Labour. The Mirror has hitman from US was told to kill Holly. And finally, the Daily Star has Fergie's agony. And those were your front pages. And that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests Josh Howie and Darius Davies. And we are back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with some other people. We've got Nick Dixon, Bruce Devlin, and Cressida Wetton filling these seats. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, please stay tuned for breakfast. Good night.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Join me, Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner, Monday to Thursday, 9:30 a.m.
Who benefits from that? Not the British public.
And on Fridays, join us, Tom Harwood
and Ellie Costello from Britain's Newsroom.
That's what you get with this show. That's fantastic.
If it's happening, we're talking about it on Britain's Newsroom.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show, we have got Louis French, a Conservative MP. He's got his left in the corner with him tonight, and that's Matthew Larser, the former Labour Party policy advisor. Also got the former model and Big Brother star Aisling Horgan-Wallace. Got public policy expert, that's Lucy White, her first time on the show. Also got Colin Brown, he's a TV cook, celebrity personality, and he's back, Gary the Cabbie, he's back to speak some common sense. But first, let's go to the news.
Good evening, this is the latest from the GB Newsroom. A man has been remanded in custody over an alleged plot to kidnap and kill TV presenter Holly Willoughby. GB News reporter Lisa Hartle has been outside court in Chelmsford.
36-year-old Gavin Plum appeared at Chelmsford Magistrates Court this afternoon. The shopping centre security guard from Harlow in Essex has been charged with soliciting a man named David Nelson to commit murder and incitement to commit kidnap between the 2nd and the 5th of October. Plum is accused of planning to assemble a kidnap and restraint kit and encouraging a third party to travel to the UK to carry out the alleged offences. He was remanded in custody and ordered to appear on the 3rd of November at Chelmsford Crown Court.
Labour's describing its Rutherglen and Hamilton West by-election win as a seismic victory. Michael Shanks took the seat with 58% of the vote, more than double that of the SNP's Katie Loudon. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says Scotland is key to securing a majority at the next general election.
I've been determined from the moment I took over as leader of the Labour Party to take us from one of the worst defeats since the 1930s for us to a general election victory, and that's why we've worked so hard to change the Labour Party. I've always said the route to that general election runs through Scotland, and that is because I know how strongly so many people in Scotland want change, and I want to, if we're elected in to serve, I want to be the Prime Minister for the whole of the United Kingdom, not just of the United Kingdom. So it matters hugely that we succeed here in Scotland.
A key supporter of the Just Stop Oil protest group says he's redirecting his funding to a youth voting campaign. Green energy industrialist Dale Vince says he's given more than £340,000 since the group's foundation. But he says under the current government, protests cannot work and warns further disruption may prove counterproductive. Mr Vince is instead supporting a new cause aimed at encouraging young people to vote. Just Stop Oil says it will continue its campaign of civil resistance. Former First Minister and current Alba Party leader Alex Salmond says Hamza Yousaf has days to save his job after the by-election defeat. Scotland's First Minister says the SNP needs time to reflect on the result.
The SNP, we didn't do enough. We know that there was contextual factors. Margaret Ferrier's reckless actions, the police investigation, of course. But we've got to reflect, I've got to reflect, the party has to ensure we've got a good campaign machine behind us, but also that we're inspiring people with a message. We clearly got a message from the voters of Rutherglen and Hamilton West that the SNP has lost some trust in that seat. We've got to make sure we regain it.
A Conservative councillor has called for the Home Secretary's resignation over the handling of RAF Scampton. The government is accused of ignoring a legal order to stop converting the former airbase into a migrant camp to house 2,000 people. The Home Office says it's confident the project meets planning requirements, but Councillor Roger Patterson described the department as liars. And finally, while much of the UK could see temperatures of up to 26 degrees Celsius at the weekend, a warning for rain is in place in parts of Scotland. The Met Office has issued both amber and yellow rain warnings for large parts of Scotland and northern England from tomorrow until Sunday morning. ScotRail has announced there will be significant disruption to its services. In contrast, fine and dry weather for southern and central England. Temperatures could rise as high as 25 degrees by Sunday afternoon. You're with GB News across the UK on TV, in your car on digital radio and now on your smart speaker by saying play GB News. Now it's back to Lee Anderson's Real World.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World, and tonight I'm joined by my good friend Louis French, who is the MP for
Old Bexley and Sidcup.
And also got the left in the corner, another good friend of mine, which is Matthew Larser. He's on probation period tonight for left in the corner. Hopefully we'll get him back at some stage. Well, look, straight into it, guys. Big announcement at conference this week, Louis. HS2, the northern leg, is going to be scrapped, and that money, what it would have cost, 30-odd billion quid, is going to be doled out throughout the north of the country. Is Rishi right to do that?